Good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many people here this morning. I'm Karen Frederick. I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, and I have the easiest job this morning, and that's to welcome everyone on behalf of our Chair, Chet Zablak, who is not able to be here today. And I want to thank Chet and Enterprise Bank, Jack Clancy, George Duncan for allowing us to use this beautiful space for this event. Because they are so generous with their venues, and this really is a nice place to hold an event like this. So thank you for being here this morning. This really is a celebration. I mean, what is better than giving out money and getting money, right? And it really is a celebration of community. And I think the Greater Lowell Community Foundation is aptly named for the deep work and the attention they pay to issues and what's going on in the community. So it's my pleasure to be a board member. I'd like to introduce, there are several other board members here today. Andrew Macy is here. Where are you, Andy? Steve Jonkis, who's been a longtime board member, is key to the program committee and is also here with us today. I'd also like to mention Sue Beaton, who is a board member. Many of you know Sue. She's a key player in this community, and she was a key part of the grant selection committee for the board, correct? So who's here today? Our grant recipients, some of our selection committee members, and the board, really to celebrate all of the great initiatives that are going to happen with this funding. So you're going to hear more about that from Jay, and I also want to mention that the selection committee is really an important piece of that. And there were 21 members who reviewed, I want to get the numbers right, 54 applications. So that's no small amount of work. So congratulations to all of you. Let me be the first to congratulate you today for receiving grants from the Greater Lowell Community Foundation. It really is exciting to see everybody here, and I think this is kind of a new take on doing this, and I really think it's important to celebrate this and for all of us to get to know each other, because partnerships in this community are so important. So welcome everyone. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce the President and CEO of the Greater Lowell Community Foundation. I know how fortunate we are to have Jay Linehan in this role. He's a dynamic leader. He's always listening to what's going on in the community. He attends events and is seen everywhere. And it really is having that pulse on the community and being such a great leader that has driven the Community Foundation, I think, to new heights. So please welcome Jay Linehan.
One of the things I'd just like to talk about real briefly is, because we don't talk about it that much, is of course we've got categories that we're going to deal with today. We've got social education, and we got the children, and we got the elders, and we've got the energy conservation, water conservation. The reason those all exist is from philanthropy of other individuals. What they have done at the Community Foundation is they have set up endowed funds, and those are where the dollars come from for each one of those particular categories. So it's the philanthropy that makes the Greater Lowell Community Foundation be able to do what it does. And in particular, with regard to the social education, that was a fund that was set up with Moses Greeley and through the Parker Foundation many years ago. And not only was it an endowed fund, but it was a discretionary fund. So what the Greater Lowell Community Foundation gets to do with that is we get to decide what is the particular interest that the foundation wants to pursue. The other three are fields of interest, and they are as I described. And those are the grants that come out of those every single year. But with respect to the discretionary grants, it's really important for the Community Foundation to have an idea, what are the needs in our community? And I think that's a great obligation that we have, is to, where's the data, what's going on? And towards that end, I believe on everyone's chair, you have got, can you give me the graphic right there? Okay, this right here. This asks, what are the three key needs that you think of? And that is what goes towards the decisions that we make with regard to the discretionary grant money. And again, it was social education. And that goes for 2 years. 2 years prior to that, it was the opioid issue. And needless to say, I don't have to explain why we decided to use the opioid issue. But we're in year 2 of the social ed. So next year, we'll be looking to have a different category that comes out of this fund. And the thing that drives our decisions on this are you folks. Because the beauty of the Community Foundation, the beauty of having a variety of nonprofits that sit on the Greater Lowell Community Foundation Board, and a great group of folks that make up the program committee, and again, a number of the key folks that are on nonprofits, and not only just on the board, but just from the community that come and give us their input, that's where those decisions get made. So this is not an unimportant piece of paper that you have. So I would ask that you please fill that out. It was, yes? Did you hand them out yet? So I am glad you are paying attention to the form you need to fill out. Thank you very much. The Community Foundation is some 21 years old. And the first year that this happened, we gave out $25,000 to 16 nonprofits. Today, we're going to give out $140-some-odd thousand to 21 nonprofits. Those are all increases year over year over year over year. So we are thrilled to be able to do that. And in the discretionary space of what I've just talked about, in the course of a year, we do twice that amount. We do it in a variety of other ways as well. And of course, we're very thrilled to be able to do that. The last, what was the end of, as we just closed our books on 12/31/2019, for the first time in the history, we went north of $40 million, $42 million in the foundation. So I'm really thrilled that that's the case. And needless to say, I keep a close eye on the market because that has a lot to do with what we do. But it's that economic prosperity that drives what we do. And so I want to thank everybody all for that. One of the key things we do, and a lot of the nonprofits, and several of them in the room participate in this, is we are the investment vehicle for nonprofits. So a lot of nonprofits say, we don't want to do this stuff. So a lot of them do, and that's fine. They have the acumen, and they've got the staff, and they've got the advisory boards to do that. But a number of them do not. And they say, can you do that on our behalf? And we're thrilled to do that. And just in case you're contemplating that maybe something that you might want to do, for 2019, our return on investment was 22.6%. Let me repeat that, 22.6%. Not a bad return. Clearly, 2019 was good for many folks, but 22.6 is not bad. One of the key things that I think is important with the foundation, and one of the key things that hopefully folks started to do a little bit as we were getting introduced this morning, is what about partnerships? How important are partnerships? And as we even went through the process of doing these grants, when we were in this very room and we were chatting with folks, we're going, if you see that there are grants being requested where there's a synergy to partner, it's within our purview to ask folks to do that. And there's a couple out of this group that's exactly what happened. But partnership is a word that is used frequently, but it's not oftentimes talked about that it's not as easy as everybody likes to think that it is. Everybody will say, I love to partner, I love to collaborate. And that's true. But it's hard work. It's not something that doesn't happen on its own. It is purposeful and it's intentional. And what it means is you got to get out of your own space. Because when we do our thing, and we all do it, and we go to the office and we do whatever we do, we can go in, do our thing, and at the end of the day, we got a linear track and we do what we need to do. But when you partner, I'm engaging people in this room. I'm talking about a topic that we all want to resolve, and everybody might have a different opinion on that. So with a small c, we create conflict. But I think that's great because the conflict comes to a consensus and a decision as to where we go. And one of the things I'd love to see come out of here this morning, I know many people in this room know each other, but I know a number of people don't. And one of the things I want you to do when we announce the grants, I'm going to ask people to stand up, and I'm going to ask you to just say who you are. But I also want the other folks around the room, when they're listening to that and hearing that and going, that's somebody I need to talk to. I don't know much about what they do. And it might not necessarily be that you can align your program with their program, but you don't know that until you talk to them. And I'll give you a couple quick little examples. There's a homeless project that we embarked on in this city not that long ago, and it'll have a year anniversary in March. And what was the most amazing thing that happened when the city manager called a lot of the players together, and Karen Frederick was instrumental in all of that, but the city manager was the key driver of that. Got 25 people in a room to talk about homelessness. And you would think that everyone's going to have a sense as to what's going on. The 25 people didn't know each other. You do this, you do that. There's a lot more that came out of what happened in that room that day. But if we stopped right there, right then, and the only thing that came out of it was people got to know each other and learn what each other's done, that in and of itself would have been a success. So keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this morning, and as you leave here today, is whose name can I take away today to follow up with tomorrow? One of the other things, and Karen already did that, was she did a shout out for the staff. I'm going to do a shout out of the staff specifically. And as far as Karen had mentioned, this was the first time that this program happened, so I want to thank Jennifer Arati for that. Jennifer is our Vice President of Program Marketing, so thank you, Jennifer, for putting this all together. And then the whole grants piece itself, where's Fatima? I told her she was going to have a key speaking spot here today, and so she hid in the back. But Fatima Palermo, please stand up, Fatima, so we can see you. And Janine Naka, who's standing in the back. Janine makes sure all the numbers add up for all of this. Nobody would be getting any money here today if it wasn't for Janine. So applaud Janine, please. I mean, Sharon, Kim, and Lisa Wills were over there standing there. Putting anything together, as you know, takes time and effort. And those folks were fabulous with doing this. And last but by no means least, Howard's hiding in here somewhere. Where is he? He's over there. Yeah, he's absolutely hiding over in the corner. And he's our Vice President for Philanthropy. So it is absolutely a team approach. And so I'm really, really thrilled to have that team. So I want to applaud all that. So again, with respect to partnerships, one of the key partnerships from my perspective in the city of Lowell to do some of the really, really important works is the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Center. And I'm pleased to have one of my good partners and one of my good friends here to speak this morning. And anybody who doesn't know him doesn't realize, one, it's so indicative of where you've been as to dictate as to where you go. Savannah's got a very interesting past that I'm not going to get into, but he's an amazing individual who has overcome significant obstacles to get to where he is today. And he's been at the CMAA for some 6 years, and he has just done amazing work. I'm pleased to know him in the capacity that I've been at, because I've been at this job for 4 years, but a true champion of everybody in the Lowell with regard to diversity and inclusion, and clearly a key piece of our community is the Cambodian community. It is with great pleasure that I invite my friend and partner, Savannah Poe.
I think it's really nice to be able to look at a friend at a podium and say something very warm and kind of you at the beginning of a cold, sleet, snowy day. So thanks for heating things up. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate those in the room today that received funding from the Greater Lowell Community Foundation. We all know the challenges that comes with fundraising for our beloved organizations. But what makes this experience a bit less stressful is knowing that community foundations like the GLCF are committed and ready to provide assistance to projects and programs that are changing lives. I know that Jay talked and thanked his staff already, but I actually want to do it myself too, so if you're okay with that. I want to thank you, Jay, Fatima, Janine, Howard, and the newest staff in front of mine, Jennifer Raja, for committing not just your personal lives, but your expertise and knowledge to the Greater Community Foundation so that we all together can change the lives in our community. So thank you all for your time in the organization as well. CMAA was founded by Michael Benho and a few community leaders in 1984. The CMAA was created to help resettle refugees from Cambodia in Lowell, Massachusetts. It was only 5 years after the end of the 1974 and 1975 reign of the Khmer Rouge regime, who tortured and murdered over 2 million people, a quarter of Cambodians' population at that time. Throughout the 35 years, CMA has provided many, many services, even until today. Even though we've been around for 35 years, some of the struggles still exist in the Cambodian community. Based on research from 2-3 years ago, half of our community in Massachusetts are still considered low income. A quarter of our community are still considered living in poverty. And 30% of our community members are still dropping out of school. And so I think that these numbers are very striking. And when you live in a city like Lowell and you see the success of the Cambodian community, you don't think about these numbers. You look at the thriving stores, you look at the neighborhoods, you look at the statues coming up, you look at the thriving public park. But you don't think about these numbers. But these numbers are data, it's fact, and what drives us to continue to do the work that we do, and we're proud to do that. CMA not only provides services like obtaining immigration documents, driver's license, educational and housing resources, but we are focusing now on adding a kind of new component to the work that we do. We realize that our voice, yes, is strong in this community, but it can actually go up another level. That level that I'm talking about is fighting for advocacy and policy work. And I'll give you a couple examples about that. Jay is a friend of mine who loves finances but also loves data. And so if you don't live in Lowell or a heavily dominated Southeast Asian community, you think that Asian Americans in the country are doing very well. And when Asian Americans are seen doing very well, you're going to give a name that kind of hurts not just the Asian community, but also puts us against other minority groups as well. The Asian community have been known as the model minority group in the country for a long time, meaning that based on the overall data that's been collected, it says that Asian Americans are doing very well, highly educated, doctors, lawyers, business owners, things of that sort. What's happening is that the Cambodian community, the Vietnamese community, the Laotian community, the Burmese community all have different histories. And so we came from war-torn countries that not only where, for example, the Cambodian community, where educated folks were killed because they were wearing glasses or because they were involved in government situations, we lose and fall back in the educational achievement and the workforce achievement level. And so CMAA, working with many partners throughout Massachusetts, is working with the state of Massachusetts to break down the data, not just within the Asian community, but with also other groups as well. We've been able to work with the Black and Latino Caucus State House to make sure that they endorse this bill to say that, hey, let's break these numbers down with our different agencies, and let's say that these are the true numbers that reflect these communities, and let's make sure that the state funds these monies to these groups that need it the most. Another issue that's been happening and targeting our community is the Southeast Asian deportation efforts. Many young people that have been arrested during the 1980s and 90s due to gang violence and many issues like that have since then been out of jail, living productive lives, positive community members, raising families, buying homes, purchasing cars, things of that nature. Unfortunately, during that time, there was a situation where an agreement between the government and Cambodia allowed deportation to happen to folks that were formerly incarcerated. So so in the last couple of years, the current administration's goal is to deport about 2,000 Cambodian people back to Cambodia. Individuals that had never lived in the country, that were born in refugee camps, that doesn't know the true culture that exists in that country, are going to be deported. And so what happens when individuals are getting deported is that they don't have they break families apart. Children watch their fathers fly away in planes to a land that they have no recognition of. And unfortunately, there have been stories where deportees have committed suicide because they just don't understand the conditions in living in Cambodia. So CMAA and many other partners within Massachusetts, but also nationally as well, are creating spaces where we bring the Southeast Asian deportation effort up to the forefront. We want to make sure that when people are getting deported or on the list to get deported, that we as an agency are trying to be out there to make sure that, that we try to keep their families together as much as possible. And of course, local elections is one thing, and then and of course the Census 2020 is a big thing. As we all know, Massachusetts is only getting about $16 billion, and how do we get more money? And we need to get as accurate number and have as many people counted as possible. Last year, CMAA was a proud recipient of the Discretionary Fund through the foundation. Thank you, the GLCF, for that. They funded our after-school program. What I love about this city is that many cultures work hard to retain and hold on to the meaning of the identity of who they are and their ancestors. The Irish community, the Greek community, the Latinx community, and many more, they celebrate and share their richness of their history, personal stories, success, and challenges. Lowell is unique as it is a canvas for all these different cultures to thrive and coexist with one another. The $5,000 grant we received allowed us to connect 30 youth, 7 to 14 years old, with their culture through dance, history, language, and music. The program provided funds to hire a master musician to teach instruments from the Khmer community that have existed for centuries. It also provided resources for much-needed supplies where young people can express their feelings through art. It also helped fund a teacher to teach a complex language to a generation that probably don't even care about it. Thank you for providing these much-needed funds so that our 30 youth from the community not only has an activity to do after school, but is in a space to socialize, make new friends, while learning about a culture that their parents and ancestors are proud of. We also had the opportunity to start an agency fund. That was awesome. I mean, I think since 1984, CMA has never provided a scholarship opportunity to our community. And when we were able to open this, to open an endowment fund, we're now able to send 1 or 2 young people to college with some money in their pocket. We all know that young people nowadays, it's really hard to get funds to get you to where you want to go. But we also want to make sure that we celebrate the hard work that these young people are putting into the educational experience. And so CMAA has 3 youth programs that we run yearly. And one of the programs is the Young Professionals program, where we connect high school students to different mentors and previous young professionals in the community. We're also proud to say that in the last 4 years, 2 of the youth in our program received the Paul Sanger Scholarship, which is a full ride to UMass Lowell. Both young women from the community, both in the science and engineering department, which is amazing to see. This scholarship fund is an extra step to make sure that the young people that we are serving from our community is able to go to an educational experience to expand their knowledge and to continue to come back and work in the city of Lowell or many other communities that want them. Last thing I want to land on is that the foundation is an amazing resource. It's a space where they're not only giving funding to organizations like yourselves, but they provide an opportunity for people that want to start a fund. They provide, if you have an idea or a dream or a movement that's happening in your community, but you just don't know how to get involved, but fortunately you have some money on the side, you can take that and trust that the staff of the foundation will be able to invest it in ways that it will give back to the community where awards will come in the future. I want to say that when you invest in community foundations like the GLCF, you invest in helping to build a positive foundation for the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Savannah. So now we're going to scroll through the discretionary grants, and hopefully my expert technological skills will come to play here, and I'll do this correctly. But again, what I want to do is when we hit the screen, your name's going to come up of the agency. Whoever is here for that agency, and again, we're not going to have as many people as we had RSVP'd. The weather just got in the way, of course. So for a couple, there may be some little silence there, but be that as it may. And again, I want you to announce who you are. And I want everybody in the room to be going, I'm going to do that too. We were talking about this earlier. I said, I call her mom every once in a while. Affectionately, by the way. And then we're going to take a picture. We're going to come up and take a picture over here. And we will have the pictures up and about at the end of the day. Our good friend, Mr. Harkins, over here is a fabulous photographer if you're ever looking for one. But we'll have it up, and everybody will have access to these pictures. So without further ado, but actually there is a further ado, because one of the things I want to do, Karen had mentioned the selection committee. And I think it's important, again, just to emphasize how important the selection committee is, because we get volunteers from the community to come in, read the grants, score them. And so there's the objective way of having that occur. And then we all meet, and the community foundation staff is likewise around. We add some technical expertise and, you know, questions that may come up, and we'll do that. And then ultimately there's a selection as to, you know, who should get these grants. And typically, the ranking that went 1 through whatever gets switched around a little bit as people sit down and go, oh, I didn't think of that. What's the perspective on that? So it's a great learning experience, one, for the folks that participate. It's also a great learning experience for us, and we love to engage people in the community. So we're always looking for volunteers with respect to that as well. But what I'm going to do, and I want to thank all of them, so what I want to do right now is, as I was in charge of the social education piece, is just read off the folks that participated in that. We had 8 individuals: Maria Cunha, Marie Sweeney, Glenn Mello, who works at the foundation and chairs the program committee, Kate Brennan, Hannon Hansen, Liz DeGrott, David Garino, and Carly Rosetta. So I just want to thank them for their work. Thank you. Social education. Social education was, again, that came out of the program committee. And education is a major piece of what the Community Foundation does. In the course of a year, anywhere between $500,000 and $600,000 is awarded in scholarship grants. And so education has always been a key focus. And many of our donors are very interested in education. And we were talking about, well, you know, what are the needs in the community? And again, it gets back to the program community, it gets back to those forms. And it was like, lots of people don't fund this stuff. And that's how this came. And this is a lot of like civic engagement, social justice type things, leadership, mentorship, and there's a variety of different grants here that we were really thrilled to do. And again, that was the result of feedback from individuals in the community. So, first, International Institute. Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. I know that Jane Calvin is not here. Youth Leaders in Climate Action. $7,500, a great partner in the city of Lowell. Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership, Project Genesis Home Buyer Training, a great partner in the city of Lowell. Happy to award $15,000 to them. Mill City Grows, Food Justice Squad, Youth Education and Engagement at the Urban Farm, $15,000. Playworks TeamUp program in Lowell, $5,000. Project Learn, Portrait of a Graduate. And next up is Children's Services. But before we go there, I just want to thank all the folks for the social ed stuff. And lots of good work gets done. And it's amazing that the time and the effort and that everybody puts in to have this happen. So it is now my pleasure on this program to introduce Jennifer Aradery, who, of course, as I noted before, is our VP for Marketing and Programming. She will take over the Children's Services grant.
Good morning. Good morning. Right, so I guess the sugar and caffeine kicked in. This is good. That was the plan. So thank you for joining us for what I hope will be an annual event celebrating our discretionary grants. I've been at the foundation for just over a year, and I have made it my purpose to get out into the community and visit as many nonprofits as possible. So if you have not seen me in your space, you will soon. I managed to go through about 50 nonprofits locally and learn more about your important work, and I was just completely blown away about the work you do every day. And so it is my pleasure to be able to announce the children's grants. I want to share the names of the individuals that were on the selection committee for the children's grants: Suzanne Frechette, Chris Lopez, Jennifer Myers, Kelly Pruill, Kate Blount, Mary Beth Foster, Kate Hansen Foster. So thank you to those on the committee who donated their time, and they did incredible work. So I'm very interested in the history of the foundation, and I won't tell you everything I've learned in the past year, but I wanted to learn a little bit about the Children's Services grants and where the money came from and what it supported. So if you'll indulge me for just a few seconds. So the Children's Services grants are supported by the GLCF Children's Discretionary Fund. It was formed in 2012, after the Lowell Children's Museum Fund closed. To date, more than $80,000 has been dispersed to area nonprofits that support services for children. The foundation welcomed proposals for this particular grant for organizations that enhance the quality of life for children and young adults in our area. So, the first grant is Aaron's Presence for empowering youth givers in Lowell for $5,000. Next is Budget Buddies for Girls Life for $5,000. Next is On the Move for personalized book donations for Lowell for elementary school students for $2,500. So I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Howard Amidon.
One side note I'll put in, it's a fascinating, if you haven't done the grant process, even those of you who are grantees, it's a fascinating process. The conversations at the tables were really interesting, and I had a particularly vibrant and live group. We went past our time. Shout out to Andy Macy, who was here from our group, who was a facilitator who actually made people make decisions, because it's really hard when you're talking about a bunch of really great, really powerful programs that have impact. Everybody wants to fund everything, and you have to reach a place where you finally make decisions, and that's really amazingly hard. It's also great it's volunteer-driven because it keeps Jay and me and the rest of us alive when we walk the streets, so we don't get people attacking us because we didn't give them a grant. So, I do want to thank the rest of my committee: Sue Beaton, Bench Scott Hyder, Rosemary Costello, Sue Purdy, Andy Macy, Maxine Farkas, and Matt Guerin, who are not able to be with us today. So we actually were charged with giving out 2 sets of grants: the LeClaire Elder Services grants, which do support those in our community who are aging. The first one was Gaining Ground for their growing fresh produce and hunger relief for community voters. Our next grant went to Lowell Council on Aging for the Kamai Senior Outreach Program. We also awarded the Mass Alliance of Portuguese Speakers for their Immigrant and Health Services program here at Lowell. Merrimack Valley Food Bank for their mobile pantry. I'm pretty sure they're not here today. And the Power of Flowers project for the individual bouquet deliveries and flower therapy workshops. And the title of this doesn't tell you nearly what this does. Seek them out afterwards and ask. It's interesting. And our last grant in this category went to Project Citizenship for the Citizenship for Elders in Greater Lowell program. We have one more in this category, which is to the open pantry for the Greater Lowell Food Pantry. Jeff, come on down. The other set of grants we awarded around another critically important issue here, particularly in this area, which are water resources. Obviously, water has meant so much to Lowell, both as an economic engine, as a recreation, as a way of life, and as a key to life. So the grants we gave are very important. The Nashua River Watershed Association for water quality monitoring and for improved recreation and aquatic weed control. And our final grant in this category went to Oars Inc., which is getting to swim Lowell tracking bacteria pollution in the lower Concord River.
Well, that's it for the grants that we have today. I'll get over here. All right. I'm glad you're sitting there. When we get back in the office, we have to talk. But thank you all. I mean, Howard mentioned it a little bit too, and let me mention it as well. I wish we had 10 times what we give away here today. And because the work that everybody does here is amazing. Getting to know the nonprofits and how they do what they do with what they have to get it done is a miracle every single day. So to all of you for what you do, thank you so much. And to the folks that make this possible, many of which are not in this room, and of course those are the folks who give us the dollars so we can do this. I have grateful thanks for them all the time. And that's the work we need to do. And some folks will go, well, the fun part's giving out the money and the hard part's raising the money. No, it's both fun. It's fun on both sides of the ledger. Because the thing that I get to do is talk to the folks to say that, would you support these efforts? And if you just think of what we just went through here, just think of that, just for a minute. The variety of different nonprofits in this room and the dollars that just went out the door and the things that are going to happen as a result of that. That's amazing. And I get to tell that story. I get to go to people and say, by the way, would you be interested in supporting this? And more often than not, they go, absolutely. And more often than not, they say the same thing I just said. I wish I had more to give. So thank you all for what you do. Again, please do not forget to fill those things in. And as our gentleman in the back said, he's got his check. We know all the banks around here, so we can take that back. Doesn't matter whether you cash it or not. I know them all, of course. So, and then again, we're going to be here for a little while, as long as you want to be here. We've actually got the room till 12 o'clock. So if you've got the time, take the time and make the connections that I talked about at the beginning. Because opportunities like this, we don't always get. When Jennifer and I were chatting about doing this, I was thinking, I was going, what a great group of folks we're going to have in the room today that do fabulous work. And we're going to have a great event. Clearly, we gave out money to folks and we're really, really happy. But I'm going, what else can we accomplish when we get this type of talent in the room? And I think it's connections. I think it's networking. Because we're all going to go about what we do. And the next time this group gets together again, who knows? So please take great advantage of that. So thank you very much for what you do. Thank you for filling out and being part of the input for us when we do some of our discretionary grants this time next year. And thank you for hanging, because we're going to take a picture as well in front of this right here.
Look outside. It's good. He's good. Today.
All right. Well, let's see. You'll sit forward in your chairs. Bring your knees together. A little broken here. Swing your knees.